Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. This is a brief introduction to my webinar today. Students are always going to want feedback on their speaking, but teachers don't have time to dedicate to this. Nowadays, with artificial intelligence, students can get feedback on every recording they make. One of the innovations I'm presenting in this workshop is giving students a choice in the type of feedback they want to receive. On top of that, Gemini can now listen to the sound of students' voices and suggest ways to improve their pronunciation. I'm Chris Fry. I'm a retired EFL teacher. I worked at the British Council in Barcelona for nearly 40 years and enjoyed almost every minute of my time there. Although I retired 10 years ago, I'm still very interested in what would have been possible if we'd had artificial intelligence 10 years ago when I was a teacher. You don't need to take any photographs or screen grabs of the webinar today because you've got access to the complete presentation on PowerPoint. If you use this QR code, you can go to a Google Drive folder, and in that there's a subfolder called May 30th, 2026, where you'll find material related to this talk. There is also a short code at the bottom in case you can't handle a QR code reader. So what we're going to do today is you'll first of all see some examples of the language coach prompt that I've written in action. Then you'll record yourself doing a speaking task in a language that you're currently learning. So not your native language, not English, the language you're teaching, but some other language you're studying. Then you'll be able to explore the quick feedback option and some of the choices in the 7-step prompt included in the language coach prompt. And you should be able to experience the read aloud or listen function to hear natural pronunciation. And finally, we'll have 10 minutes for feedback and questions and answers. And there I'll be very interested in finding out any problems that you had with this language coach prompt. So this is the beginning of the prompt that I sent to Gemini. It is actually created with the help of Gemini. So one important thing is that after uploading an audio file, the instruction is to match the level of the audio file. So the recording, if it's at A2, then the explanations and instructions should be at A2. It is designed to be used with any language. So if it's English, use British English. But if it's another language, everything should be in the other language, all the responses. Other considerations are avoid using jargon. Words like transition, lexical, syntax, students don't understand these. Try to use everyday language. Waiting for the audio, obviously no feedback or assessment can be given until the audio has been uploaded. So what we're going to do now is have a look at the video that half my students watched when the other half were outside the classroom. So what we did was Half the students were sent out of the room. They had a worksheet or something to do. Half the students were in the room and they watched this video 2, 3, 4 times, probably with subtitles the last time.
I can't believe we got here so late.
I'm sorry, Jenny. I had to finish that article for Dawn.
Don't forget the chocolates.
Okay. Oh, no.
I don't believe it. Don't tell me you forgot them.
I think they're still on my desk.
Oh, you're kidding.
You know what my desk's like.
Yeah, it's a complete mess. Why don't you ever tidy it?
And then they go off to meet Jenny's parents. So after the students had listened to this a few times, they then practiced retelling the story to one of the people who had also watched it. Now, this would be a good moment for them to record themselves and to get quick feedback. And we'll have a look at that later, what quick feedback looks like. So let's have a look at quick feedback. Students are given a choice, and I simulated the student saying, quick feedback, please. So it says, you did a good job telling the story. Here's the feedback on your audio. This is a transcript. I'm not sure that that's incredibly useful because it includes some mistakes, obviously. But here are the main errors that it's highlighted. There are 3 errors in grammar and vocabulary and 2 pronunciation tips. Let's listen to that.
She said him to, we say she told him or she said to him. He, forget in the desk to, since it happened in the past, use he forgot it. There is not chocolates to, because chocolates are plural, use there were no chocolates. Pronunciation tip. The letter H in words like he or her, make sure to blow a little bit of air out. It should sound like a soft breath. Past tense endings. When you say said, make sure the D sound at the end is short and clear.
Okay, the pronunciation, I don't know whether I really noticed those problems. If students don't understand the word soft breath, they can just say, what does soft breath mean? And they'll get an explanation at their level. So one of the options is the quick feedback. And as I said, that's most suitable when the students are actually going to do it again in quick succession, as in the class I'm talking about. Here's a verbatim transcript. This will give you an idea of what the recording sounded.
Rob and Jenny are in her car, and they are going to meet with Jenny's parents. And she said him, don't forget the chocolates. And he saw the bag in the car, and she saw there is no chocolate. And after that, she said, "I don't believe it." He said he forget in the desk. After that, she said, "Why don't you ever tidy?" No?
Okay. The charming thing about that is you can hear the person she's speaking to saying, yeah. So I remember watching students doing this, and the eye contact they were making as one of them retold the story and the other listened was absolutely genuine. They were sitting facing each other. The person who was speaking was recording themselves, but they were looking at the person they were speaking to. So in retrospect, I think I would like to make the verbatim transcript something you can edit. Because, for example, he saw the bag in the car. When I did this on my iPad, it correctly interpreted that as he saw the back in the car, which is what we saw on the video. Anyway, let's move on. Remember, these are all alternatives that the student can choose for themselves. If they don't want to see the verbatim transcript, they won't see it. They won't hear it in any case. So this is something that I really believe in very strongly. I think students should be given a chance to correct themselves. And in fact, there are various examples of this in her car. So the student corrected herself correctly there. And there's another example later on. I don't believe it. She corrected herself to include the it, and that's great. In the desk, okay, it is actually wrong anyway. So let's have a look at some of the things that the pronunciation option will suggest. So this just gives the student a chance to think about how to correct it themselves. So if the student chooses to get some help with the pronunciation, they will hear this. Well, they will see this and they will be able to listen to it.
The H sound in words like her, him, or he, make sure to breathe out a little bit of air at the start. It should sound like a soft whisper or a tiny puff of breath. If you don't do this, it can sound like or im. The S in plurals, when you say chocolates, try to make the S sound at the end very clear. It sounds like a little snake hiss. This helps the listener know you are talking about more than one chocolate.
Okay, I didn't really notice the H problem there, but I did notice the S. It seemed quite confusing. I didn't really know whether she was saying chocolate or chocolates. Okay, another option the student has is to get natural correction. So the student could just decide to go straight for natural correction, forget all the pronunciation, the opportunity to self-correct what they'd said. So this is natural correction. It's only correcting errors, not making anything more sophisticated.
Rob and Jenny are in her car. They are going to meet Jenny's parents. She told him, "Don't forget the chocolates." He looked at the bag in the car, but she saw there were no chocolates. After that, she said, "I don't believe it." He said he forgot them on his desk. Then she said, "Why aren't you ever tidy?"
Okay, so that's tidied up all those little problems. Meet with Jenny's parents, and he said forget. He forgot them on his desk. All these nice corrections there. Now, something I introduced here was the idea of getting a more colloquial version. Now, students can choose whether to do this feedback stage or not. And once more, in retrospect, perhaps a student be more interested in having a more professional version, a more serious version. And it's very easy to change the prompt to encompass that alteration.
Rob and Jenny are in her car. They're going to see Jenny's parents. She told him, "Don't forget the chocolates." He checked the bag in the car, but she saw there weren't any chocolates. Then she said, "I don't believe it." He said he'd left them on his desk. After that, she said, "Why can't you be more tidy?"
Okay, so that has improved things to make it more colloquial. It'll now explain 3 of the changes that it's made. There are some other ones that it's made that it's not going to highlight. Here we are. three things.
What changed? There, I used a contraction, joining they and are. It sounds more natural when we speak. Checked. Instead of saw, I used checked. This is a common word to use when you look for something. Left them. I used left instead of forgot. We often say we left something behind when we forget to bring it.
Mm-hmm. So, three changes are always highlighted in these other versions. They're all ways of working on emergent language, suggesting other ways that students could have expressed themselves if they had a slightly better knowledge of English. Let's have a look now at more advanced level. This is just trying to be more sophisticated, but only half a CFR level higher than the original.
Rob and Jenny are in her car, on their way to see Jenny's parents. She reminded him not to forget the chocolates. He looked in the bag, but she realized the chocolates weren't there. She was shocked and said, "I don't believe it." He admitted that he had left them on his desk. Then she asked why he's always so messy.
Okay, so once again, if the student doesn't understand a word like admitted or messy, they can simply say, what does messy mean? And they'll get an explanation. Now, once again, here we've got three things which have been highlighted.
What changed? On their way to, this is a great bridge phrase. Instead of just saying going to, it describes the journey as it happens. Reminded him not to, this is better than said him. It shows that Jenny is giving a helpful warning before a mistake happens. Realized, instead of just saw, this word shows that Jenny understood something was wrong in her mind.
Okay, so just three things are highlighted here. There is an even more advanced level. And when my granddaughter was working on a very similar prompt, she lost interest before she got to the even more advanced level. But one of the things here is that students can choose. They could go straight to 7, the more advanced version. That's one level above. It's up to the student. And I hope that putting the student in charge of what feedback they get will make them more responsive to the feedback, and that they'll be more involved in the whole feedback process. So let's have a look at 7.
Rob and Jenny are in the car heading over to her parents' place. She'd already told him not to forget the chocolates. He checked the bag, but she noticed they were missing. She couldn't believe it and started to get annoyed. He had to admit he'd left them behind on his desk. She ended up asking why he can never stay organized.
Okay, so ended up, perhaps not a phrase the student knows. They just have to say, what does ended up mean? But anyway, it will pick up 3 of these improvements, these more sophisticated versions. And here they are.
What changed? Heading over to, this is a very common phrasal verb. It sounds much more natural than just saying going to when visiting someone's house. Notice they were missing. This is a stronger way to say, saw there were no chocolates. It explains that something that should be there is gone. Left them behind. Adding behind to the word left makes the sentence sound more complete and fluent when talking about forgetting an object.
Okay, so you've now seen the quick feedback and the 7 options. So there are 8 options altogether. The student can choose which types of feedback they want. As I said, the quick feedback is the best one to use if you're going to work and do the same speaking task again, which was the situation that my students were in. At home, you could spend 15 minutes or so working through all of these 7 more detailed feedback, or you could just skip to the ones you're interested in. But now it's your turn to actually experience this as a student. What I'm going to ask you to do is to describe a video with no sound live to someone who can't see it. This is an exercise that I used in my classes. What I want you to do is to do it in a language you're learning, not in your native language, not in English, because you wouldn't make enough mistakes. So imagine you're working in pairs, facing each other, with one person able to see the screen and the other person with their back to the screen, depending on the first person who can see the screen describing everything that's happening. What I usually did was, after a while, I reversed the roles, and the one who'd been doing the speaking became the listener, and the one who'd been listening became the speaker. And you'll be describing the whole video. So what you're going to need here is your mobile phone. We're going to watch episode 1, Sam. I'll provide you with these links at the end on one screen with all the links there. Of course, you have got to record yourself. So I'm sure your voice recorder on your mobile phone will do one of these things. It'll generate an MP3, a WAV file, or AAC. Pretty well any audio file can be uploaded to Gemini. This is the list of the acceptable audio files for Gemini. So you don't actually have to have anyone sitting with their back to the screen. You're going to have to imagine it. So you're recording yourself describing everything you see in the language you're learning and recording it on your mobile phone. Do it in English. So there's a woman or somebody with very long hair. She's got some strange glasses on the top of her head. She's looking for something inside a car, but the car is a complete mess. She's put her head through the passenger window. Now she's looking in a sort of metal box and under a table. She's clearly searching for something. Now she's looking on some shelves. Suddenly we see a teddy bear that appears to be watching. The teddy bear is looking at her. And she's found something and she smiles. She's taken out a knife and she appears to be, she's cutting the back of the teddy. Inside the teddy, there are lots of wires and electronic circuits, and I think she's repairing something. That's what she wanted the cables for. Okay, she's finished. She's smiling at the teddy and speaking to him. I don't know whether the teddy is replying. Anyway, now she's sitting looking at herself in a mirror. She's got long, wavy hair. And the teddy bear is looking at her. Oh, the teddy bear's got a sort of red light in it, a bit like heart that seems to be flashing. Oh, she's done something to her hair. Her hair is now straight. She's got the teddy bear in a sort of sling, like the thing that people use to carry a baby. And she's got a backpack on her back. Oh, and she's going out of the warehouse and she's going out into the country. It's in the middle of the country. She's just walking along with the teddy bear. teddy bear can see where they're going. Well, if the teddy bear can see anything. Um, she's walking through a wood or something, a forest. I think she says something to the teddy. She takes something out of her pocket. It's a map. Um, and she seems to be showing the teddy bear where they are. She looks worried. And she walks on. And if you wanted to see episode 2, you could, but we haven't got time for that. And obviously, what I would do is let them watch the whole video with the sound, but we just haven't got time for that. What I want to do now is to move on to you using the language coach prompt. But there are 3 ways to do this. The QR code is the easiest way. If you read that, it'll take you to a Google Doc and you can just copy and paste that prompt into Gemini. If you can't use a QR code, there is a shortcode there, but there is another possibility. What you can do is you can take a photograph of the code and use text recognition, and you've got the prompt. So whichever system you use, you should be able to get the prompt. With my own students, I think I would have used the WhatsApp group to share the prompt with all the students. Okay, so now go to https gemini.google.com on your browser. And the Edge browser will work best for this. And I'll explain a bit about that later. But whatever browser you use, that would be the best one. So you copy and paste the prompt and into Gemini, and then you click on the send icon and upload your recording and click on the send icon again. Then what I want you to do is to choose the alternatives you want, depending a little bit on how much time there is and your personal preferences. If you've got earphones or a headset, you can listen to some of the feedback. I guess if you're sitting alone at home, you don't really need earphones or a headset. You can just use your phone without disturbing anyone. But if you're in a setting where there are other people around, it might be more polite to use your earphones. So at the end, I want to get some feedback on everything you did, and particularly on the quality of the listen, the read aloud. I found in Spanish and Italian it was brilliant, but in Catalan it was rubbish. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to switch over to chat. I'll stop talking, and in the chat, I'll be there to help you with any problems you're having with doing, with using the prompt. As this is a rehearsal, I'm going to move on to the next stage. Um, if you're watching this, it's a good idea just to pause the recording of the webinar and actually work using the prompt with your recording. So I hope you had time to try out some of the ideas there. And I hope you'll also appreciate that giving students a choice of what feedback they get is a way of getting the students more involved in the whole process of improving their speaking. I prepared a pad to get some feedback from you. So this is a QR code for the Padlet. The Padlet symbol is the thing in the middle there. There is a short code down there at the bottom as well if you have problems with reading the QR code. So I hope you've got enough time to do that. And then I'll show you what it looks like. Okay. So this is the page, and I hope I can somehow magnify this. That makes it easier to read. So there's a rectangle, yellow rectangle at the bottom with a plus sign. That's what you click on to add your feedback, your thoughts. So what I want you to do is basically to answer these questions. So which options did you choose? Which ones did you like best? Which language did you use? Do you think you'll actually use this prompt yourself to help you improve your speaking in this language? What about the read aloud or listen? Did you use that? What did you think of the quality? Um, there is an opportunity with Edge to use read aloud. But I didn't explain that. Perhaps there's no point in making comments about it. So here's an example. It can be fast and motivating, especially for low stakes practice. It's most useful when it gives specific actionable next steps, not just a score. I still like a human check for pragmatics, tone, and whether the message lands. Mm-hmm. Clear prompts matter, so tell the tool the learner's level task and what to focus on. Interesting there. Yeah. Students choosing the feedback focus increases buy-in and reduces overwhelm. Okay, so I will leave you to make some comments there, but I'm most interested in getting your feedback on Padlet because later I'll be able to get a summary of all your feedback and I will share that with you in a way that I'll explain in a moment. Once again, if you're watching this rehearsal on video, you might like to pause the video while you give your feedback. Now, I've created a WhatsApp group called Speech to Text in Language Learning and Teaching. If you'd like to join that group, you've got a QR code there and a short code. Do you think this idea will be useful with some of your students? I would love to hear how you get on with using these ideas or adapting these ideas. And you can post any experiments you do in this WhatsApp group. And you'll find a link to a folder with this presentation and other material related to the subject in the group. So I hope this session was useful. You may find it helped you speak the language you're learning. Your students may find it useful improving their speaking of English or any other language. You can find me on LinkedIn or email. This is the QR code for my LinkedIn. And just finally, I'd like to leave you with all the links that I've used during the talk. The one to the Google Drive folder, the Meeting the Parents video, the SAM episode 1, and you can watch episode 2 as well if you like. I'm looking forward to watching that after this session. The language coach prompt is there. If you want to give some feedback on Padlet, that's the WhatsApp group and my LinkedIn. So I hope that's been useful. And I really would love to hear about how other people have used this, as I don't have the opportunity to record, get my students recording things because they don't teach anymore.